Superman, the original superhero and my greatest sin, because even though I read a crap ton of comics, I've never really bothered with Superman. When I was a kid I thought he was rubbish, because he had too many superpowers, but now I understand the point to the character is that he's got all these powers and yet always uses them for good. When he's written well, Clark Kent is the golden standard for the kind of person you should want to be. This invasion of edgy evil supermen we've been subjected to recently is honestly just embarrassing. Only absolute idiots think Superman would be evil, and I think it all comes down to the writers being cynical losers. I can't wait for the day we can believe in good again. And so hopefully seeing some stories about Superman saving the day will remind us of what we once had. Make sure you let me know who your favourite Superman villain is, and I'll let you know mine at the end. Because we're going to start off strong with the one everyone knows, Mr. 40 Cakes himself, Lex Luthor. Action Comics issue 23. This was the world's largest selling magazine at one point, so you know it must be good. Clark Kent and Lois Lane are a team of reporters for the Daily Planet currently covering a war between Galonia and Toyman when a shell explodes nearby. Luckily for Lois Lane, the worst she gets is knocked out thanks to Clark. You see, the explosion barely phases Mr. Kent, and that's because he's no ordinary man. Clark Kent is secretly Superman. Hailing from the destroyed planet Krypton, Clark Kent is an alien granted incredible power by the Earth's yellow sun, which he uses to help mankind. For example, by ensuring these weapons of war can't take any lives. And with some diplomatic strategy, the war should soon be over. Galonian Army General Lupo says peace talks between Tyrant and Galonia are scheduled for that very day. But even for Superman, good things don't come easy. The Tyrant officials are blown to bits, and the battle begins anew. General Lupo swears up and down it must have been an accident. But the moment Clark leaves, Lupo makes a sketchy phone call, unaware of Kent's superhuman hearing. Lupo has been lying. Superman trails Lupo to a secret meeting in the mountains where he witnesses a chunk of rock take the form of a face. Apparently this thing is behind the war and wishes it to continue. Superman confronts Lupo for answers, but all he gets is a name before the strange face blasts the general in half. Luthor. I'd like to quickly highlight this panel. Jesus, Superman. I know he's bluffing, but still. Whoever this Luthor mastermind is, he doesn't just want this war to continue, he wants it to escalate, and he's going to see that it does by drawing in more countries. He sends a squadron of bombers to attack a neutral nation and involve them into the conflict. Holy crap, Superman's got a gun. Classic Superman's hardcore, dude. No, seriously, he then kamikazes into the last plane. He doesn't even care. Jesus, Superman. Clark tries to warn the warring nations of the conspiracy, but he's laughed out of the room. One man doesn't find Clark's findings funny, however. Luthor sends his agents to capture and silence Kent, but the best they can do is kidnapping Lois Lane. Within Luthor's giant blimp base, Lois discovers he's using hypnotism to keep his servants under his thrall, but one servant seems immune and only goes along with it because he fears what Luthor will do if he finds out. Lois uses the man's fears to her advantage and blackmails the poor man into delivering a note to Clark. These two are perfect for each other. Superman follows the servant's plane back to the blimp and frees Lois, but Luthor corners them. Sure, Superman can handle whatever Luthor throws at him, but Lois is another story. Coming along willingly rather than risking air safety, Superman finally comes face to face with Luthor. An ordinary man with the brain of a genius. He's using the war as a stepping stone to weaken countries of the world so he can seize control when they're at the weakest. Not a small task. But now he's went and given himself an even bigger job. Now he has to destroy Superman. How hard can that be though, especially for such a mastermind as Luthor? Well, he unleashes strength sap and rays on the Man of Steel, but Superman just takes it. Luthor absolutely bottles it and begs for mercy, but as we've already seen, Classic Superman has no mercy. He destroys the dirigible and doesn't even consider saving Luthor. He just grabs Lois and gets off. Clark Kent uses the dirigible as evidence and the war is called off. Another victory for truth and justice. So I'm now terrified of Superman, my god. I knew about that super dickery comic cover thing, but I thought they were just bait to get someone to buy the book. Superman was a lunatic in this, and I loved it. Of course, Lex does return, wildly different in other comics where he becomes a character of his own, but here he reminded me more of the Mandarin from Iron Man. They never really explained his hypnotism thing either. What was that about? Lex showed his shrewd side in this story, being the man with a plan instead of throwing on a big robot suit to punch Superman. I prefer Lex like this, using his brain to match Clark's brawn. Such a genius should know he can't match Superman physically. And Luthor isn't the only super genius with a grudge against Superman. Only while Lex's plan will all work, the next villain on our list is all play. Because up next we have the Toyman. In Action Comics 64, Superman first faces the Toyman, a devious inventor who turns playthings into slay things. In Metropolis, Lois and Clark are on a lovely stroll through the park when a fun-sized Superman legs it past. Clark catches the runaway action figure, and the owner, this eccentric old blonde man, gives us thanks. The old fella is known as the Toyman, and his hobby is inventing cool toys. He leaves a good first impression on Lois, but the cover called him the terrible Toyman, so I'm not surprised that the second we see Toyman alone, he isn't the kind old granddad we wanted him to be. Toyman sends Lois a letter saying if she wants a story for the Daily Planet, come to this unscheduled parade showcasing his toys. Lois and Clark decide to go, and it kicks off. Because as the parade marches inside a bank, the tin soldiers suddenly open fire, spraying gas around the room to knock out the guards and civilians alike. Toyman makes his move, bouncing in on a pogo stick, ready to rob the bank blind. But crime? In Metropolis, come on dude. Superman saves the citizens, but Toyman makes his escape. And Toyman doesn't play around, because next time he appears, he sets a building on fire to rob the penthouse. Jesus. Again though, Superman's too preoccupied with rescuing the innocent to capture the Toyman, something we can't really blame him for. Toyman now gets a bit too big for his britches, feeling cocky that he's twice escaped Superman. He sends Lois a tip-off to his next crime, where he's going to steal $500,000 from an armoured convoy. And true to his word, the Toyman strikes. But luckily, Superman was on the scene. He saves the army men from a toy truck filled with explosives, but when it comes to toys, you should always buy two. One to play, and one to display. A second toy truck sneaks in and blows the convoy, again leaving Superman saving the people. But this time, he works fast, and before Toyman's goons plunder his prize, Superman stops the heist. But the day is not yet saved, especially for Lois Lane. She stumbles upon Toyman, and with his plot foiled, the mad inventor doesn't take any more chances. He takes Lois back to his base, and suddenly, playtime is over. He straight up says he's gonna murder her. We've somehow gone from this fun elderly bandit robbing banks with yo-yos to the Child's Play movies. Little dolls with sharpened and toxic nails are gonna poison Lois to death, quickly and quietly. But, is that a bird? A plane? Nah mate, it's Superman. Using his super hearing, he could hear the radio waves controlling Toyman's killer dolls, so he swoops in just in time to save Lois and finally capture the Toyman. Hopefully prison will help him grow up a bit. I did enjoy the Toyman at first, but it's more the character type I love where they do gimmicky heists. It lets the writers get creative, like how they rob a bank with just a yo-yo and a toy car. It lets them get clever with it. Remember when we did Flash villains and the top suddenly got a nuke? This wasn't as bad as that, but in this one Toyman started fun and whimsical and then he suddenly turns into some creepy killer from nowhere. But his way of distracting Superman with innocence in need while he makes his getaway was crafty, and the concept of this gentle old man secretly being the villain is fun. It's like if your granddad went evil. So now we're two bad guys in, and both Luthor and Toyman had something in common. They were normal men, smart men, yeah, but still human. We know Superman can take on genius humans. But what about a genius alien? Let's see how the Man of Steel fares against a big brain from outer space when Superman faces Brainiac. Action Comics 242 as Superman faced down an out-of-this-world being called Brainiac. And Brainiac has the banter, look at this, calling him Puny Man to his face. Clark and Lois are on another one of their crazy adventures. This time they've been blasted into space on a rocket ship. One page in and I'm already confused. The good news is the launch is a success, but the bad news is that the launch has been mistaken as an attack upon a nearby spaceship. Clark uses his X-ray vision to discover the sudden enemy known as Brainiac. Brainiac prepares a counterattack, so Clark jumps into action, but as Superman approaches the flying saucer, he's bounced back. Somehow this fiend can repel Superman. Superman shifts the human rocket out of Brainiac's range, giving this extraterrestrial terror a time to reveal to us what he's doing by Earth anyway. His ship's strange ray gun takes aim at Paris, France, and somehow shrinks the entire city down. Brainiac's plot is to steal cities, take them back to his own planet, and restore them so he can have an empire to rule over. He's taken Paris, Rome, and New York, but suspiciously he hasn't touched Liverpool. Brainiac lands his ship to recharge the batteries, so Superman makes contact. But nothing Superman does can harm this big green burglar. Apparently his power belt has a built-in force field called ultra shells that even the Last Son of Krypton can't penetrate. Unable to be harmed, Brainiac just laughs in Superman's face, managing to become the first villain to truly annoy the Man of Steel. Superman actually flees the fight, and Brainiac seems to have genuinely won this time. And things only get worse when Brainiac steals Metropolis next. But wait, this is actually a good twist here because Superman losing was all part of the plan. That's my fault, Dad. I should have had more faith in him. See, if Superman's in Metropolis as it gets shrunken, he's now inside Brainiac's ship and can shut down the Ultra Shell force fields from within. So now shrunken and on Brainiac's ship, Superman searches for a way to deactivate the force fields, and he stumbles upon another bottled city known as Kandor. And this bottled city is from his own destroyed home planet of Krypton. Brainiac locks the bottle with a metal cap, and Superman's powers abandon him due to Krypton's energy. Not how it should work, but still. Superman teams up with the scientists of Kandor and, working together, the Sons of Krypton figure out how to operate Brainiac's shrink ray. We get a cool little tour of Kandor, including seeing worker robots, an artificial sun, and a cute little metal-eating mole. Meanwhile, Brainiac puts himself into suspended animation for the long, long journey home. Now is Superman's chance. The cute mole that definitely was just a Chekhov's gun eats the cap off the bottle, and Superman escapes, regaining his powers. He punches in the codes, and he restores Earth cities with ease. Brainiac's Rebigulator only has enough charge for one more blast. Superman can either restore himself, or Kandor, but the choice is taken out of his hands by the scientist he befriended. He brings Kandor with him to Earth, promising to restore them someday. Brainiac had a creative plan here. Aliens stealing people's scary, so one stealing a whole city should be terrifying. He wanted to use a mishmash of stolen cities as his own kingdom, which is a cool plot idea. My only concern here is there was no proper action. He just stood there while Superman tried to batter him, hiding behind his ultra shell like a little coward. But I do concede, it was hilarious how Superman just left him sleeping at the end. Like when he wakes up he's gonna be pissed. It seems that no matter where in the galaxy you hail from, brains are just no match for Superman's brawn. Master plans are foiled by Superman all the time. But what if a villain just tried brute force against the Man of Steel? Or even better, what if a villain was a Man of Steel himself? Next we have Metallo. Ignore the cover, she's not relevant to the story we're here for. That's more like it. And no, that's not Tony Stark, but it is a metal menace for Superman. The newest scumbag's name is John Corbin, a reporter by day, thief and embezzler by night. He's musing about how clever he is for getting away with a murder when he should have been watching the road. He's his first Iron Man and now Doctor Strange. Luckily, Corbin's crash site is discovered by a Professor Vale, and I don't know if he's at all related to Vicky. Doc Vale saves John's life by rebuilding his body with indestructible metal. Only his brain remains unaltered. Even his heart is now cold steel. And being a machine, he's gonna need charging. And a creation this powerful can't get by on a few double A's. It'll take uranium to keep Corbin up and running. There is a second option for charging, but before the Professor can tell John, lightning strikes the mountains and a rock slide gives Professor Vale a stroke. Corbin could go get help, but even with all Vale has done for him, John looks out for himself first. Realising the power his new steel form gives him, John abandons the Professor to die, and we next see John getting a job at the Daily Planet, which as we know puts him squarely in Superman territory. Oh, and there's a job for Superman now. He flies off to save the crew of a submarine, leaving Metropolis without its guardian. Corbin's heart charge is getting low, and he's getting desperate, so he attacks an atomic research lab for more uranium. And uranium doesn't grow on trees, alright. He goes a bit mad while he's robbing the world's supply to keep him powered up, proclaiming he's invincible. The media dubs him Metallo, the Metal Man, as his crime spree ends in success. And Corbin's winning streak continues when he saves Lois from a mob hit. Surviving a drive-by without getting harmed makes Lois believe John is secretly Superman, a falsehood he's happy to play along with. This is funny because Superman doesn't even wear a mask, so Corbin's very lucky he just happens to look like Superman. Thanks to Metallo's crime spree, America's remaining uranium supply is relocated to Fort Tabor, and for some reason the news tells this to the world. Why didn't they just not reveal where they'd hidden it? They're asking for trouble. Oh, and trouble does come when Corbin imitates the Man of Steel to infiltrate the fort and steal the uranium. Unlucky for Metallo though, the real Superman shows up. Metallo loses his haul but gets lucky and escapes when Superman gets distracted by innocent lives at risk. Villains love doing this. This really seems like the only reliable way to escape Superman, doesn't it? John retreats and discovers Dr. Vale is still alive, and Vale reveals the other substance that can power John Corbin's metal heart. Kryptonite. Oh, and Vale's got some on hand. Metallo, still dressed as Superman, sets a trap for the real deal to ensure Metallo's crime spree can continue uninterrupted. John uses his kryptonite to weaken Superman and steal his kryptonite, ensuring Metallo's fully fueled while Superman's running empty. Superman's no quitter though, he focuses his supervision and melts the trap away. Now the story gets a bit dumb to justify it ending in one page. Metallo's lie gets revealed off screen because the door rips his shirt and exposes his metal chest to Lois. Not that it matters because the kryptonite powering him was just a green coloured stone for tourists, and he has a heart attack and bloody dies anticlimactically. They just kill him. They couldn't come up with a better ending, he just has a heart attack. What a shame, I was enjoying this one and all. I wanted a fight scene where they actually punch each other. This issue went from, hey, I give you a metallic body, to, oh, I look just like Superman, to him trying to shag Lois, to him dying. I love the idea of Metallo being like Terminator, who's pretending he's still human, so I'm gutted the issue was wild and disjointed. So even though this villain could have stood up to Superman, we didn't actually see any fighting. Superman would have probably won anyway, he's just too powerful. Men, even augmented men like Metallo, are just no match for Superman. But what if instead of powering up men, we brought Superman down to our level instead? Let's see how that goes next, when Superman faces the Parasite. Action Comics 340 has a criminal that steals more than money or jewels. He steals your very life force itself. Superman's father was a scientist, and the knack for learning must be hereditary. because he's been doing some experiments with extragalactic elements extremely dangerous to us humans. Nice one for bringing them to planet Earth then, Kryptonian. Crap like this is why Luthor wants you dead. This little moaning ass here is Jensen. He hates his job and his boss, but I get the sense he'd hate any job where he wasn't in charge. This anti-social goon gets tasked with safely disposing of the hazardous materials that Superman's left. Only he's so stupid he opens a container labelled radioactive and is bathed in otherworldly radiation. Jensen collapses from the atomic tanning he's just had, and when a scientist tries to help him, something wacky occurs. Jensen drains the energy from the scientist through simple touch. But not just his strength, Jensen absorbs his smarts too. But the candle that burns twice as bright burns twice as fast as his new energy is quickly spent. With his newfound smarts, Jensen concludes he's now a parasite for power. He can do anything, he can become unstoppable, no one can tell him what to do now. All he needs is enough fuel. Without energy, his new powers will burn him out soon. But where can Parasite absorb enough energy to... Oh, Superman of course. With the Man of Steel's energy, Parasite will never go hungry again. He stalks Superman to a hospital construction site, and Jensen's one lucky little bitch today, isn't he? Not only has he not died due to the celestial sunbathing earlier, not only did it give him superpowers, but he's now managed to deduce Superman's secret identity immediately by sensing his power level like in Dragon Ball Z. The Parasite starts a one-man crime wave, and when Superman arrives, all he does is add fuel to Parasite's fire. Look, Jensen thinks this makes him look fearsome. To be fair, a beefy dude in just his undies is pretty scary in the right context. But even though his speedos leave little to the imagination, we can deduce Parasite has no balls, because as soon as Superman manages to stand up, he absolutely loses his bottle and legs it. But Superman reveals he is actually quite weakened when the Parasite almost drains Lois, so in order to finish his feast on the world's finest, Parasite threatens to expose Superman's identity unless they finish this here and now. And Superman's got no choice, and they actually do have a pretty cool showdown. Superman accidentally reminds Parasite that super strength isn't Kal-El's only power. Parasite hits Superman with his own heat vision as he continues to leech his life away. Oh crap, Parasite won? Superman's too weak to fight, a villain has defeated Superman, and evil has triumphed? This must be the last issue, what a grim way to end Superman stories. Oh no wait, suddenly Parasite doesn't feel so good. The gluttonous goon has overfed himself on the Moorish power of the Man of Steel, and he pops like a balloon, his body unable to contain the awesome powers of the Last Son of Krypton. Defeated by his own greed, Parasite is no more. This dude was great, he was unapologetically evil through the whole thing. His character was really well done, I thought. His human form being so whiny and snotty set the stage well for when he got his powers. No sad backstory or nothing, he was just always an ass who got a taste of power and went hard with it. He was clever, stalking Superman, and even managed to figure his identity. And he actually won the final fight, no questions asked. I really enjoyed Parasite, the only negative I have is that his costume was a bit lame. Boss power set, great story, huge threat, loved it. Parasite's definitely my favourite out of all these villains, with Toyman in second because I like how fun his MO can be. I really wanted to enjoy Metallo, but the story got too rushed in the end and he didn't even really fight Superman. I wanted Mustache Terminator, but I got a chameleon story with extra steps. Being honest, I enjoyed most of these. There's lots more baddies I haven't touched upon like General Zod, Bizarro and Atomic Skull, so I'm looking forward to covering them too. Superman and his adventures are so iconic you can drop a reference and even people who've never read a comic in their lives will understand it. Tell someone something like mathematics is my kryptonite and they know straight away what you mean. Say something's Bizarro, or say someone is a Brainiac, or even just call a bald fella Lex. Superman's still so in the public zeitgeist that words created for his comic are now in actual dictionaries. And it's easy to see why. The creativity in these was unparalleled at the time, literally the first of its kind. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but if you like superhero comics, I think you owe it to Superman to at least give him a chance.